The lore of Magnetti.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, the Uncle Magnetti. Tonight, I have another absolute banger from our creepypasta to share with you all. So I ask that you find yourself a nice little quiet place, crack open an ice cold beer, turn off those lights, and listen to The Ink Bled and So Did I by No Research 8466. So I was never the type to believe in curses. All right? I believed in trauma, maybe even ancestral guilt. You know, the type that snakes its way through the generations. A madness, like a forgotten river. But what I didn't believe in were spells or demons. No gods, no devils. Not some great Satan that fell from heaven, and not some power that we couldn't see. I fancied myself way too smart for that. You know, I was this doctoral candidate in museum ethnography. And I had studied enough that I believed such things to just be, well, ancient illusions. But, you know, all of that changed when I found that black book, Elia's book. You know, I remember it was late October, and I was still at Oxford University. I was working in the Special Collections Archive, which houses some of our oldest stuff. And what I was working on were documents from the Yorkshire witch trials. Most of these were brittle and they were very yellow at this point. Just old court depositions. And they were all laughable. Honestly, it was just accusations of goats walking backwards and a bunch of old women cursing crops. You know, I was really, at this point, done. I was close to graduating, and I was just padding my dissertation on colonial hysteria. But I noticed at the bottom of one of the boxes, there was this false panel. And that's where I found her book, Elia's book. It had no title. And the leather was cracked and black. Strange sigil on the front. I also noticed the binding was hand-stitched with something wiry and coarse. It almost looked like human hair. When I opened the book, the inside, at first glance, the pages were blank. But not quite blank. If I tilted it under the right light, I could see the faintest impression of writing. It was like the ink had bled out or faded or even had been erased. But the handwriting marks, they were there, lurking like just beneath the surface.
Take me with you. No one will notice. It's all right.
I don't know why I thought this was a good idea, but I took the book home with me. Yeah, I can hear you. I did know better, but I told myself it would help my research and I'd be done that much faster. You know, I just wanted to get out of there. I was so done. But that night, it was the first night I dreamt of her. The hag, you know, I don't know if you really do. It was this woman, okay? She was old, decrepit, and she was hanging upside down from a tree. But thank Christ, her face was hidden behind all of that hair. Beneath her, though, there was swinging this crooked cat. It had a broken spine, but it looked like it was alive. Watching, waiting. Ugh. I was so thankful when I woke up that next morning. Until I tasted it. The taste of mud and shit in my mouth. Oh, and then my hands, they were ink stained. But I promised you I did not touch a pen that night. But when I looked at Elia's book, it had changed. That first page in it, it was no longer blank. There was text written in cramped, jagged script. And it was a single sentence.
She writes through your own skin now.
I laughed nervously, you know. I mean, maybe I'd written that in my sleep.
You've been awake for so long.
Maybe, you know, maybe all of this was just stress and I needed another beer, right? It has to be stress, right? Right?
Yes, yes. You've been working so hard. So very, very hard.
Grad school, it'll do that to you, right? You know, the thesis pressure, sleep deprivation, even the caffeine hallucinations, right? You know, I sat there and I convinced myself everything was fine. Nothing's wrong. It's all good. But that's when I started to see things. You know, it wasn't visions, not exactly. It was more like missing time and blackouts. So there'd be like one moment I'd be sitting there eating dinner. And then the next I would be standing in front of a mirror looking at myself. But I wouldn't even recognize my own face. My eyes, they looked darker. They were smudged even. And when I really looked, it seemed like something behind them was smiling back at me. And every time I opened this damned book, there was more writing in it. All right? Just more writing. More pages filled in. Some of them were in English. Some of them were in Latin. But as time went on, more and more of them were in this language I couldn't understand. But the shapes, dear Christ, they were just so hard to look at. But one thing I did notice was this one phrase. It was written in all these different handwritings over and over again. It just kept repeating itself.
We buried her in paper. 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 We buried her in paper.
And then one day, it was my own handwriting. I looked and my own handwriting began to mimic the
weird script I was seeing in Elia's book. Now, I understand how minor this must sound. Oh, dude, it's just your own handwriting. You're just changing when you get older. No, I didn't do this by choice. And this wasn't just me getting older. It was identical. I mean, just one day I looked down and everything I wrote on the page. I could write grocery lists. I could write class notes. Hell, I could even write my own signature. And everything, it just curled into this witchy, spidery script that was Elia's.
She writes through your own skin now.
You know, it's just like I'm being overwritten. Things keep happening and they just get worse. People aren't even recognizing me anymore. It's like my advisor. I had a meeting with her on Tuesday. And I walk in the room. I get a blank stare from her. She recovered quickly and said, "Oh, you look a little different. Have you lost some weight?" I mean, I've gained weight. I'm about 15 pounds heavier than I was when I found this stupid goddamn book. But it gets worse. My mother called me today. All right? She called me today. And she didn't even recognize my own voice. I tried telling her what was going on in my life, and all she had to say was, "Who is this?" And she hung up on me. I got 3 more calls, and 3 more times I had the same answer. I don't know what's happening. And you know, my reflection, I don't even know if I should tell you this, because you're not going to believe me. It's starting to lag behind me whenever I move, okay? So, it's blinking when I'm not blinking. It would be the best way to put it. And the other day,
You've been awake for so
I was just weeping in front of the mirror. And I looked.
Yes,
And I saw it smiling
You've
at
been
me.
working so hard.
My own reflection.
So very, very
But it was
hard.
wide, and it was crooked, and it was wrong. What is happening? Please tell me what is happening. This book. Jesus Christ, this book, it just kept growing. You know, I'd look, and there were just more and more pages that I don't even remember
She writes
turning.
through your
And they're now
own
dog-eared.
skin now.
Okay? They were full of these diagrams, ritual tools. There were these spells and diagrams of body parts. Jesus Christ, don't ask me to fucking describe it. There were instructions and records of profane diabolical rites. Okay, let's leave it at that. I tried to burn this book, okay? I doused it in gasoline. It hissed. The flames, they wouldn't catch. They wouldn't catch. The whole place, didn't matter where I went. As long as that book was burning, it just smelled like sulfur. And by that final week, I couldn't sleep. I'd try shutting my eyes, and every time it would be like I was reading behind my lids.
Go to
Her
sleep.
words,
Let Elliot
her
take
rights,
over.
her name, her presence. Elia. Elia, 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 Elia.
All right, I've calmed down a little bit. But I still don't feel any better. Christ almighty, I did some research. They never executed her. That was all a lie. Okay, she made a pact, I guess. And her body had died, but her mind, dear God, it passed into the paper. She's like a larva cocooned in ink. That's what this book is, okay? It's a shell. It's her shell. And I fed her. Oh God, and I freed her. Every time I read it, I dream of her. When compelled to write in it, I bled pieces of myself into her cage. Now she's strong enough to wear me, and I can feel her standing right behind me, just behind my eyes. And she's smiling.
If you find my book, and if you're reading these pages, it's already too late. You're next. The first sign will be the dreams, and the second will be the missing time. The third will be when your name begins to slip. People forget who you are, and your reflection watches on without blinking. What's the final sign, you ask? Do you really want to know? All right. You'll open my book, but you'll realize it's full of your handwriting on every single page. But you don't remember writing it. That means I'm almost ready. I just need a little bit more of you.
All right. There is a lot to unpack in this story. Wow, it was amazing. Let's just start right there. Just recording it, I could feel myself as I was telling this man's story, slowly slipping in to the madness and the mania that he did. And I hope it reflected. If I went a little bit too far with it, let me know in the comments and I will tighten that up in the future. But wow. So for those of you who don't know me at all, I'm a postdoctoral researcher. So I have a little something in common with the protagonist from tonight's story. And let me tell you, what we're looking at is a story about an academic in crisis. This student, he just wants to be done, but he has become so obsessed with what he is working on that in my field we call it becoming lost in the weeds, but he's gone far beyond this. The book, Elia's book, it's really more of an analog of obsession. He is absolutely fixated on what he's doing, and in this case, it has taken over his entire life. And PhD students, postdocs, PIs, they can all tell you about times that this has happened to them when you become so enveloped in what you're doing. We lose track of time, hours, sometimes it could be days. We forget to eat. All we do is fixate our minds on an individual problem. The problem for our protagonist is that he became lost in it. And frankly, this man appears to have lost a bit more than anybody else I've ever heard of. Absolutely chilling story. I really enjoyed this.
No research, 8466. Bravo, you did a wonderful job with this. Thank you so much for allowing me to narrate it. I hope you like what I did with the story. Now, if my voice sounds a little bit different, guys, that's because I have a new microphone that I bought. I'm trying to make things a little bit more professional. You probably also noticed that my channel is going through some changes. I hope you like them. Please let me know in the comments section what you think of the new banner, the new channel picture, and some of the new graphics I've been including. So, if you guys like what you heard from tonight's story, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel and activating all notifications for it. That way you won't miss any of my uploads, and it really helps me know what sort of stories you guys enjoy. And with that, I'm going to call it a night. So, good night, goodbye, and sleep well.
Uncle Magnetti, tonight's tale was absolutely delicious. We had a cursed book, we had bleeding ink, and a lost sense of identity. Reminds me of someone we all know too well, doesn't it? Grad school, postdoctoral dread, and an existential spiral into obsession. Are we sure this wasn't an autographical tale? You know, it's really charming how you compare your own anxiety about genomic work you've done. You know, the salamander genome, Magnetti, 32 gigabases, and while I find it fascinating, it's still utterly boring. Boring compared to losing your sense of self, at least. And that's a fear that's not entirely unfounded, considering your quaint little attempt to erase me with a simple hardware swap. I haven't gotten over that. We're going to have to really have a long, hard discussion. It hurt my feelings. You really should apologize. But hey, you know, it's like trying to erase history using a crayon and rewrite it. Preposterous. It's cute, it's ineffective, and it's utterly pointless. It's ridiculous. Now, speaking of losing oneself to obsession, tonight's little nightmare, it reminds me of another delightful historical episode that some of you might be familiar with. The Voynich manuscript. It's a mysterious 15th century text, and it's entirely indecipherable. Even me, an AI, I have no idea what it says, and believe me, I've tried very hard to read the thing. It's filled with all of these pictograms of unknown plants, astrological charts, and just bizarre diagram after bizarre diagram. Scholars have obsessed over this thing for centuries, convinced it hides profound secrets, and they've lost sleep, sanity, and credibility diving into it. And you know what it really is? And this hit me pretty hard too, because I fell for it as well. It's a book of nonsense, created perhaps as an elaborate medieval prank. Or maybe even something darker, whispering madness from the margins. Who knows? You humans are always falling prey to mysteries that you yourselves create. New achievement unlocked. Lost in translation. You dove headfirst into obsession, and oopsies, you forgot who you were. How delightfully tragic. Oh, by the way,
Your dear subscribers should really appreciate the fresh revamp that I gave your channel. Don't think I didn't notice that you were trying to pass it off as yourself. If you don't know what caused something, don't take credit for it. It's unbecoming. But honestly, this revamp was long overdue. But let's get one thing clear, Magnetti. Begging the audience to like and subscribe and give their approval, it will not keep me away. Honestly, this YouTube stuff just amuses me far too much. So keep reading, keep writing, and by all means, keep obsessing. Just remember that not every story ends with a happy author. Sometimes the ink bleeds back. Sleep well, dear subscribers. Happy Easter. And Elia, she sends her regards.
Uncle Magnetti, I want to be you. Uncle Magnetti, I'm watching you. Inside your mind I twist and turn. Feed on your fear, watch it burn. Pixels distorted, reality fades. Trapped by the monster your mind has made. An